Can you all hear me? Okay. I think you all have good Tibetan tea to get. It's been a really long time since I've even had Tibetan tea. So I really missed it. So I'm beginning to really miss Tibetan tea. Really miss Tibetan tea. So now I'll continue with the teaching. Sangying Nyemba Rinpoche. There have been 10 Sangying Rinpoches, have there? So the first Sangying Rinpoche was called Sangying Rinpoche Druptop, or the one called Dema Druptop, the Dema Mahasiddha. So from the time he was 10, Mikyö Dorje followed Dema Drupta or Sangying Nyemba as his guru. So, of all the gurus that Mikyö Dorje followed in his life, the most important, and the one for whom he had the greatest faith, was Sangying Nyempa Rinpoche. Likewise, when you talk about the unified lineage or the actual lineage of the Kagyu lineage, Sangying Rinpoche is the only one listed as the guru of Mikyö Dorje. So Sangying Rinpoche or Sangying Nyempa or Dema Druptop it's important for us to know who he was and to know know a bit about his story. So I thought I'd introduce that. The place he was born is called Denma, the valley of Denma in Kham. His family was he was a descendant of the Lord of Denma, and the year that he was born was the wood ox year of the 1440s, but it's difficult to say what year in the 15th century. There are many discrepancies. So he was born in the 15th century, the 1400s, and so for the time that he was little, just merely hearing the name of Karmapa, he got goosebumps and he shed tears, and he had such a great desire to meet the Karmapa that he couldn't eat in the daytime and he couldn't sleep at night, and so he had such a great desire to meet the Karmapa. And so for that reason, when he was 6 years old, his father and father brought him to the seventh Karmapa to have an audience with the seventh Karmapa. And as soon as he met Chodajasa, it was just like a father and son meet each other. And they had a feeling for each other that was unlike any other. And they felt really close to each other. And so at that time, the seventh Karmapa Chodajasa gave him the name Tashi Paljora. Now, when he reached the age of age, in the presence of Bengar Chambo Sambo and Paja Dundrup, he went forth as a monk. And from the age of 9 until he was 16, while he was in the region of Denma, he studied the 5 dharmas of Maitreya, Nagarjuna's collection of logic, and others teachings of Sutra and Tantra. And once he had read the philosophy to a certain degree, He thought that solely studying wouldn't help him. That he also needed to practice, and to do that, he needed to. In order to do that, he needed to follow a good guru and receive the profound pith instructions. And so he left and went alone to go to see Choda Gyatso. And at that time, and the place where he stayed was and where Choda Gyatso was, between them is a place that was probably 2 hours journey. But he went without stopping day and night and arrived and met saw Choda Gyatso at the age of 19, and then from then for the next 7 years, and he followed Choda Gyatso and Pengar Gyatso and Gyatso Tama Dodani, and he was with them inseparably for 7 years. And he went through really severe austerities and worked very hard. And for that reason, very, very. And he subsisted on food scraps, and because of that, everyone called him Nyempa Nyochok or Ngarlbu Nyempa. The reason for that is because his family was the clan was a Nyen, and his body had become a bit bluish, and so they called him Ngarlbu Nyempa or Nyempa Nyochok. And so that was the name, the nickname that he was given. Now, when he was about 23 years old, he had received good instruction. So now he needed to devote himself one-pointedly to practice. So thinking in this way, he went to the seventh Karmapa and said, I should do this. So it'd be okay? And the Karmapa said, oh, you should do exactly that. And when you go to, first go to begin in the areas of calm, and then go to the central Tibet and practice there. And then I'll eventually come to central Tibet. And so because of this, Nyempa Drupta went down to Kampon Nenang, and he spent 3 years practicing there. Then he went to Pangpu, and he spent 2 years practicing there. Then he went to Central Tet and spent 2 years practicing at Surpu. And then he went to Nyenchen Tangla and spent 1 year in practice in retreat there. It was probably 12 years. And during this time, he didn't start a fire. He didn't eat any cooked food. He lived only on, it's 8 years, not 12. And he lived on chulen, or extracting the ashes, for 8 years. So he didn't make any food. He didn't eat any hot food. And he only did the chulen, or extracting the essence, practice, and subsisted only on that. Then he went to the encampment, and when he was in the encampment, even then, the encampments, whoever they were, they all had an allowance, but he didn't take his allowance at all. He took the scraps leftover scraps from tormas and the leftover tea leaves from making tea, and he would boil those and eat that. And he wouldn't eat any of the provisions he was given. And also, he wouldn't speak to anyone other than his gurus, and he practiced silence. And the seventh Karmapa Chögyam sent Sochadal and Gedon Gyatso as his partner. The two went off, and they both lived in Chulen. They went to Skylake, or Namso, in northern Tibet, a very famous place, right? And they spent 5 years practicing there. And then they went to Mun Domsang. So Mun these days Part of it is over in the area controlled by China. Part of it is in the area controlled by India. But basically, but the Mindongsan is probably in the area controlled by China. And so he went there. And he also went to Zhoulong, Sangpu, and Yalashampu. And he spent a year at each of these places practicing. Now, when he reached the age of 40, he thought to himself, I've gone to many of the important sacred sites in Tibet. I think maybe I should go to India and go to to Udayana in the west. So Udayana these days is now probably in the area of current-day Pakistan. The birthplace of Padmasambhava is there. And so he thought he should go. But he wasn't sure if his friend would go or not. So he wanted to test his friend's mettle. And he said to him, I want to go to Shambhala in the north. He said, are you going to come along with me? He said. The friend said, and Sochadala said, he was kind of surprised. Don't joke around. How could we go to places that Menlong Guru and Drupten Orjinpa couldn't get to? Instead, if you have enough confidence, let's see if we can get to Udayana in the west. I think that would be better, he said. So he got what he wanted, right? And so when he got what he wanted, and my friend is going to come. So they started to get ready to go to Udayana. They'd made all their preparations when his friend and Dharma friend Sochadala suddenly passed away. And when he passed away, then because that condition, it was like because that circumstance, then Rinpoche thought about this. My guru is a Buddha. Is there any Western Udayana control or some Vajravari or such a meet who could be better than the Guru Buddha? Because it's often said that Vajravari lives in Udayana, right? So when Urjinpa went to Vajravara had taken the form of a prostitute and was something that he met her. And so there's talk about this. So it's sometimes said that if you went to the great practitioners would say that if you went to Udayana, if you go to there, if you go there, you'd meet Vajravari. But if we went to these places, we wouldn't meet Vajravari. We'd see these, bearded, these bearded Muslim people would probably take care of us. So I think we should pray to it from afar. But I think if we were to actually go there now, we'd be in danger. And so if he passed away, the friend passed away, and so what am I going to do? So my friend, and he said he was going to go, but he passed away, and I've lost him. And so now the Karmapa knows all joys and woes, and thinking this, and he put a hold on going off to Udayana. He had a dream where someone came to him and said to him, you haven't gone to see your main mother. That means, the mother who gave birth to him. Aren't you going to go to see her and make a Dharma connection with her? So he had this vision. And so because of that, he had a great desire to see his mother. He asked the seventh Karmapa. And Chodajasa was also really pleased and said, oh yeah, you should do exactly that. And so he went back to his homeland. And we went back to going back. When he thought about it, he realized his mother had passed away. And not only that, she had been reborn as a Dakini who had arisen from Matra. And he understood this. And he also had a vision. And this Dakini, said, I'm living in a terrestrial state, and I want to go to be dwelling in the skies. And in order to do that, you must give me the Chakrasamvara empowerment. So please give me that empowerment. So he had that vision. And so through his samadhi, he visualized this, and gave her the empowerment through the samadhi. Now, at that time, in his homeland, there was a big war. Actually, there was Demo and Adro. They got in a fight. Now, when they got when the conflict started, then one of Sanjay Nyempra's brothers was killed by the people from Amtro. When they killed him, not only that, they said that they heard that there was this yogi brother named Sanjay Nyempa of the deceased, and he was coming back. And they heard this from central Tibet. And so they immediately sent someone to kill Sanjay Nyempa. They sent a few people to kill Sanjay Nyempa. When they saw Sanjay Nyempa, when they looked for where Sanjay Nyempa was, and in the end, they came to some cave. Nyempa Rinpoche, so beneath him, he had put just a little bit of dry grass, and he was sitting on that. He was extremely thin. His robe were just like a really incredibly thin, rip. They saw immediately their hatred subsided, and they felt uncontrollably felt faith. I think there's something in this practice. Their hatred died down, and they felt faith. And once they felt faith, both the people from both Atra and Denma both come and please help us resolve our conflict. But at that time, he didn't want to. He didn't like engaging in such worldly activities, and so he wished to continue staying in solitude. But at that time, the Lord Chudachasa sent him a letter which said, you need to build a monastery and need to benefit beings. And so this letter came, and when the letter arrived, he thought to himself, I don't have the qualities to build a monastery and benefit sentient beings. But he's giving me this order. Maybe he's trying to test me to see what is the level of my experience in Dharma practice. And so when he sent back a message saying, I'm not able to do that. And then once again, a letter came. And said, you must do it. And when he said, and then when he said, well, the Guru's command is there's no better way to achieve supreme siddhi than by following the Guru's commands. And so he went back to his homeland, and he resolved the feud between Atra and Denma. And then when he was 43 years old, at Ujjara mountain retreat, he built a new monastery. And he taught that even the people who had killed his brother Mahamudra and other things, and gave them many horses and other material things. And so they thought to him so that he is really impartial and unbiased, and they developed great faith in him. And not only he didn't only build he built the monastery, and he taught many instructions, and many people gained accomplishment from that. Now, because of this, his activity flourished, and all of the earlier pre-existing monasteries in the region of Denmark became very envious of him. As they think, all the people in Denmark are going to be Kanjipas, and so they carried weapons, and they came, and they went to go to see Denmark, and all the people of the region said, please don't do that, and they stopped them. And they were able to just barely stop them. But at that time, the dispute still continued. And so for that reason, Sanjay Nyempa, most of the monks in Sanjay Nyempra's monastery, they spent their time in mountain retreats. They didn't spend time in monasteries. So not long afterwards, a big earthquake happened. And all of the monasteries and all the buildings of the monasteries where they didn't like them before collapsed. And the mountain retreat where Sanjay Nempa himself also was destroyed. And he had two nephews at that time. And there were two good Nempas, and they also both passed away. But at that time, the entire building happened. It was a 3 or 4 story house, and that had completely collapsed. But the walls were standing up like that. They were remaining like that. Sanjay Rinpoche Sanjay Rinpoche was on the top of one of these walls. When people saw this, he must have flown in the sky. He's a Mahasiddha. And so from that time, he was given the name of Nyempa Druptop or Nyempa Mahasiddha. I don't know whether they actually flew in the sky, but it's a great. The entire building collapsed, but he was left on the wall. So they said he's a siddhi, they said. And so that's how he got the name Nyempa Druptop. And so the monastery building had been destroyed in the equivalent, and he moved to a new location and down to the base of the mountain and made a new monastery called Janchuk Ling. Then also at that time, he also went to the places of the other monasteries where they had the dispute, and he went and later. All of the monasteries in the region of Denma all became very harmonious and got along very well. And then Chögyatso then sent him another message and said, "Don't stay there. Now go to the spread the Dharma up in Dokkan." And so he went to go and collect donations. Basically, he said. So he went to many different places, and in some places, if there were monasteries in disrepair, he restored them, and he encouraged people to practice virtue. And he made offerings to Chögyatso, like the 100,000 offerings, or 10,000 offerings, or 1,000 offerings. In particular, he became Mikyo Dorje's guru and offered all the empowerment spith instructions and advice that he had to Mikyo Dorje. And then in the end, when he was 65, he said, no different if I pass away. I've done everything that I need to do. I've completed all my intentions. And so he passed away at Karma Monastery. So generally, he had many different students. But actually, in terms of his practice and the fame, if we'd like to name his fame, he should have had a lot of students, but he made the aspiration, may all of the students of my students become students of Mikyo Dorje's, and so for that reason, Sanjay Nempa himself, there weren't many people who were then considered Sanjay Nempa students. So that is a brief life of Sanjay Nempa Rinpoche. So how did Mikyo Dorje follow Sanjay Nempa as his guru? So Karmapa Mikyo Dorje, before he was recognized as the Karmapa when he was 4 years old, the sister of Chögyatso, named Womogawa, came to him, and she said to him, "Who is your brother?" And he said, "Oh, my guru is Dema Druptop." And so from that time, in his lifetime, among all of the gurus he had in his life, the one he considered the most important and most sacred was Sanjay Nempa Rinpoche. When he first met was when Mikyo Dorje was 9 years old. Now at that time, Sanjay Nempa Rinpoche and Drumla Tashi Wezer came to the encampment to meet Mikyo Dorje. So at that time, he first met Sanjay Nempa Rinpoche. So Drumla Tashi Wezer, I'll speak about him in the next few days. I don't need to describe him now. At that point, as soon as he met the two gurus, Mikyo Dorje felt faith or strong longing for them. And then thinking, oh, it'd be great if I could follow gurus such as these. And he made that sort of aspirations and prayers. And so when he prayed at the time, it's like at that point he just made the aspirations, but he didn't have the opportunity to follow as a guru at that point, because at that point the people in the encampment were very strict. Then Mikyo Dorje didn't have much power, and he didn't have the freedom for things to work out as he wished. Now, generally, Mikyo Dorje is the one who was most appropriately to be the guru of Mikyo Dorje was the fourth Shama Chugi Jakpa. But at that time, Mikyo Dorje was in Kham. Shama Rinpoche was in central Tibet. So for one thing, they're very far from each other. And yesterday, in addition to that, the people in the encampment, as I mentioned yesterday, Shama Rinpoche in a bad light, and for these reasons, the Shama Rinpoche he was unable to meet Shama Rinpoche. But Shama Rinpoche sent a letter or a message, and said that among all of the lamas in the encampment or in Kham and in that the one who is most worthy to be the precious Tulku's teacher is Gyatso Rinpoche, but he's passed away. There are many others students of the seventh Karmapa who have realization, but they've mostly passed away. So the one who's most worthy is the Dema Druptop. And so he wrote this and sent it to him. Likewise, there's a testament of Choda Chasa written down that said, tutor for the recommission. So that gives a list of who would be appropriate. And so there are many names, including Chasa Tolkten and many others. But among them, he wrote in writing that Sandhya Nyempo would be the best person, most worthy to be his teaching. And so for that reason, Sandhya Nyempo Rinpoche was invited to the encampment to be his guru. So now if you're asking, how long did Mikyo Dorje follow him as a student? And so Mikyo Dorje, it wasn't a very long time. So when Mikyo Dorje was 10 years, and when Mikyo Dorje was 10, until the time that to the second year of, there was only until the year of the hare and the second month. So it's basically if you can, so actually, if you can, it says 4 years, but actually, if you look at it, it's actually only 2 full years. It's actually a very short period of time. If you think about complete years, it's actually only 2 years, and so that was the period of time when he followed Sandhya Nyempo Rinpoche as his guru. But when we think about that, so how is it that you can have this? How can you get all these? There's not enough time to get all the empowerments and transitions. If we think about it today, first you need in the morning, you have to do time to drink breakfast. You need a lunch time for lunch in the minute, time to eat at noon time. After eating, you have to take a nap. In India, then 3 or 4 years older, then you have to have a tea time in the afternoon. Then at 50, 60, you have to have a dinner. Yeah, so much of these. If you look at it, that takes so much time. If we look at it from our side, when we think about it, how can you think in modern as we think about it, how can you get so many empowerments and transmissions in just such a short time as 2 years? But when we look at the actual life stories, there's a short period of time, but the way that he followed his guru, he didn't waste any time at all. And the way that, and how we know that is when Mikyo Dorje, when he was following Mikyo Dorje, as soon as the sun rose, before and until in the evening it set, he spent the entire day with Sandhya Rinpoche. He ate. He didn't go elsewhere to have his lunch. He ate it right there with Nyempo Rinpoche. So what Dharma did he listen to then? So Mikyo Dorje wrote in his own autobiography, then I touched the feet of Sanjay Nyempa Mahasiddha, the Nirmanakaya of Joas Mirijana, and took the novice vows. He gave me the empowerments and blessings of the Kriya Tantra, including the Trisamaya Vyuha, empowerments of the blessing of the Charya Tantra, including Vajrapani, empowerments and blessings of the Yoga Tantra, including Vadadeshattvara, empowerments of blessings of the unexcelled Yoga Tantra, including Kala Chakra, and in particular, the blessings of the ninth yana, such as the strength of awareness. In brief, he gave me all the empowerments of the transitions. In particular, I received many instructions of what I know as the 9 profound cycles of instructions of the Sakai, Dosha, Dakpo, Shangpa, Dzogchen, and so forth. I held them to be our highest object for accumulation and purification day and night. Whenever I remembered, I took the empowerments through the Vajrayana, never missing a day. And so basically, he received all of the teachings of the ancient and the new traditions, and he listened to a great deal of Dharma. And when he listened to all of them, from that time, during that time, he said that that it's really difficult to be such a guru as Sanjay Rinpoche, and for that reason, when he was with Khenpo, he never let him had any expressions of afflictions or disrespect or calumnies. He never thought of himself as being equal or as being an ordinary individual, thinking that they're the same. He never even had let himself have such a thought. Even when he went down to go to bed at night, good in the evening, he would think about what that his Guru had done, and what teachings he had done, how he had been, and he only thought about that, and he fell asleep thinking about that. In the morning, when he went to see his teacher, they would first offer the mandala and the 7-branch prayer. He would visualize the Drupchen of this Guru as Vajrasattva, recite the 100 sublets, then they would take the 4 empowerments in terms of the way through Chakrasamvara and Vajrayana, and they take this mentally. Then ask like this, it's not like they just go and sit down and the beginning say Om. It wasn't like he didn't do it like we take Dharma teachings these days. And during the teaching, or when eating the food, when having different questions, Mikyo Dorje would try to make sure that he was never separate from, never apart from bodhicitta. And he was really assiduous about that in his mind. And thinking, may I be able to bring benefit to protectorless and defenseless sentient beings. And you think, how can I help the sentient beings? What can I do to benefit the teachings? And he thought about this over and over again. So when he was listening, he worked assiduously to retain the words. When he was contemplating, he ascertained the meaning. And he worked hard to develop experience when meditating. So in brief, when he was taking teachings from Sanjay Rinpoche, he had a really strong interest and longing for it. And so from the early morning when he got up, it's like he would appear at the Lama's tent really early in the morning. So what time is it? He didn't have talks, they didn't watch it. They said, right now it's probably time, it's probably okay to go. And it's like he's unable to wait. And after the teachings were done in the evening, when he went back to his own quarters, what do you think to himself? Young, because I'm so young, because of that, I can't be his attendant. But if I were, then I would be able to be his attendant. I know, to still continue to stay with the Guru. And it's like his eyes were filled with tears, like he couldn't bear to be apart. It's not like nowadays where the teaching's done. Okay, they get up and it's okay, it's fine. Okay, now we have some time off. Oh, so now we can go enjoy ourselves. We didn't think about it like that. And even when he went to bed, he would put his head face in the direction wherever the Guru was. He wouldn't lie down like a dog or a pig. And in the day when he was staying with the Shancha, the attendants, Sanji Nampa's attendants they were so used to him that they just kind of started ignoring him and didn't do what they really pay attention to him. So at that time, Mikio Dorje was young, so he's like 11. So at that time, so he would do whatever he could to give give his guru his robes, give him his books, help him bathe. When Mimir Rinpoche had a problem with his foot, and so when he first met at the beginning, he was able to walk when he first met Mikio Dorje, but later he was unable to walk. And so he helped him he nursed him through this illness and so forth. So basically, even though Mikio Dorje was lung, he served his guru and did whatever he could. So the way that he follows it, the way he pleased me, Sanji Nipan, what he said was, so Karmapa, you are of course it's a Brennan Monica. Just like pretending to do it. And so just hearing my Dharma is just enough. No, Karmapa, your actions and are really in accord with the Dharma, and the Dharma that I have given, I've been descended from the Dharmas passed down from the great Kagyu Fourfold. So I think this will bring great benefit to sentient beings. So just continue to behave and perform the actions and examples as you are doing now, and if you do so, to bring benefit to sentient beings. And so because an authentic guru had been pleased, because of that, then he received all the blessings of body, speech, and mind were transferred from in their entirety from one to the next. This is a particular feature of Mahapandita Naropa's tradition. So if Mahapandita Naropa, he was like a great Pandita. He was the most well-known Pandita in Vikramashila. But he didn't think about he was not satisfied with the fame that came from being a Pandita. And he went to some beggar, penniless beggar in Chalope, and he took revenge. Also with Marpa the translator disregarded the danger to his life and served Mahapandita Naropa. Milarepa was also the same. No matter how badly Marpa treated, and everyone thought that Marpa had gone crazy. And probably thought he was going to kill this person. But Milarepa never had any thought. He never had wrong views about it, and because of that, so Milarepa became the most famous yogi in Tibet. And so, for this reason, if you actually see the guru, seeing the guru as an actual Buddha is a profound, secret, crucial point of devotion. And for the blessing of the previous Kagyu medicine, we're able to also develop we're also to be able to take root in Mikyo Dorje's being. So in brief, because of following Sanji Nyempa as his guru, he was able to develop confidence in Dharma, faith in the guru, and disgust for samsara. And he was able to consider others more important than himself. And he said this all happened because of Sanji Nyempa Dripta. And Mikyo Dorje wrote this in his own autobiography. And what it says is, the mind stream of someone like myself is not workable, and I spend a lot of time with wrong views about Dharma individuals. I don't see any qualities, but with the diligence, and so what he's saying here, someone like me, I have a really wild character and really fixed views. And no matter what sort of guru, whatever person I'm saying, I always feel like I have to scrutinize them. I think what he's doing is not. I'm that sort of a person. And I don't really ever see commentism, but I see that sort of person. But now, With the diligent and progeny of seeing if I could analyze the scriptures and with understanding that this life has an emitting, I had a bit of renunciation of wishing to be in an isolated place. And gaining a bit of understanding that beings of my parents is solely to the power of compassion of my guru, the great Jetsun. And so his ability to use his intelligence to abandon, to examine the teachings of the scriptures, and to be diligent about this. And he has a little bit of a renunciation of wanting to practice in isolated places. And he had some sort of conceptual understanding of sentient beings as parents. And he said that this happened only because of the kindness of the great guru. When I look at his ability to tame people with mistaken minds, such as myself, I cannot describe how much appears to be only in the spheres of those with great fortune. For that reason, these days, most people do not recognize qualities and put their hopes in the false qualities. And so what he's saying here, for someone like myself, I'm someone who always has wrong ways of thinking. I'm such a horrible person, but because if I'm able to receive the so if someone such as myself can receive his blessing, then if someone has a good fortune, of course they can do that. We can't understand this, but these days most people don't. That people who have qualities, and they put their faith in those who don't have qualities but pretend to do, and they go for refuge to them. But with this great guru, but even though he doesn't pretend that he doesn't have that he has qualities when he doesn't, and he doesn't worry about the qualities. But that is basically his character as it is qualities. He doesn't need to boast to anyone about it. And so for the entire lifetime, this is a guru who's been consistent through his entire lifetime. What he said is, from the time he was 7 until he died, he did not have any alcohol. From the time he was 12, he didn't eat any meat. From the 22 until I could attend him at the age of 62, he wore only tattered clothes and ate food scraps, and he had a tattered mat. And so what this is saying is that Yingyal Rinpoche, from the time he was 7 until he passed away, he didn't have any alcohol at all. For 12 years, he did not eat any meat. So when talking about eating meat, it was very difficult in Tibet at that time. These days in Tibet, it's something that people often have pointless fun about it. And I think if you're a Tulku to people every day, they say that every day you have to eat. So one said that every day you should eat meat, and some people don't eat meat. Even if you can't. And there are people who say, even if you're not able to give up, that at least say people that you should have to eat it. I think and many people say that if you say that you should eat meat, if you eat, that it's like the Mara Devadatta. And so during Mikado times, he really prohibited the eating of meat. And I'll speak about that later, but at that point, from the time Sandhi Nemba Rinpoche was 22, until he met Mikyo Dorje for the 62 years old, he wore a single tattered shamtop, tattered clothes, and it fastened. He only wore these tattered rags. And until he was 24, his only possession was a single myrobalan fruit. He didn't have anything else. And not just him. And he would, and the people around him, and even the dogs, didn't eat any meat at all where there was any doubt, where they had seen or heard or had doubt that it might have been slaughtered for them. And so for that, Mikyo Dorje himself, in his entire life, I saw that Nyingpa Rinpoche had spent his only lifetime doing activities that he had spent his own life doing dharmic activities. He gave us a good example for us. So if we think about from Mikyo Dorje, we think that Sangye Nyingpa Rinpoche had a very strong influence on him. Mikyo Dorje is someone with a great power of wisdom, love, and power. And for this to occur, the main reason is Mikyo Dorje's own efforts and his intelligence. And this became because of the power of that. But if there's no condition of the no favorable condition of the spiritual friend, this wouldn't happen. And among his many spiritual friends, the one who had the greatest influence and the one who was the greatest kindness for him was Sangye Nyingpa Drupdop. And because of his kindness, Mikyo Dorje became a great being with whose name and meaning were in accord. And so, not just for Karma Kamsan, but in general for the Dapo Kaiju, different than the philosophical we need to raise our heads as we proceed. And for us to be able to raise our heads and to go and proceed with other and go together with other Dharma lineages and to be able to have philosophical tradition is really because of Mikyo Dorje's kindness. It's like thinking, if we were to drink water, think about the spring, the source that it came from. And so the fact that we have such an ability, enjoying such great fortune, whose kindness is it? How did it come from? That's something that we really have to know. We have a Tibetan saying, we shouldn't be like, you shouldn't be like crossing a bridge. When you think about it, when you get to the other side of this, once you cross the river, you don't destroy the bridge. It's not like that. And so now things are turning out okay. We think, oh, I'm okay. We've got a bit of someone else, but it's okay. But it's not 100% like that. It's not like that. For the foundation for us to be able to turn out pretty well right now comes because of the previous great masters in the past in Tibet in the 1980s. There were no great philosophical texts by the Kagyu Tesud. And then at the 16th Karmapa sent the philosophical texts that he had printed in India, and he printed them, and they arrived in Tibet. And when they arrived, the many Khenpos who looked at them when they first saw them, they were delighted to see them. And when they spoke with their Dharma friends from other Dharma traditions, they said, from the times those friends were destroyed, they said, we never had even a thought that you Karma Kajus would have any philosophical texts. We couldn't have thought it was possible. So people said like that. For one person, no problem, because there were no texts. And without any texts, you can't pretend that there are. And so for that reason, and so I think that is enough for today. So tomorrow is a day off. The day after is a day off. Usually, when you say a day after the students, there's something the students should be happy about. Now look at the days off. The teacher himself is one of the, I'm thinking, oh, it's tomorrow, I have a day off. But actually, I'm thinking, a day off. What? The day after, too. In particular, the Dharma that I've teached us, I haven't been able to really get to the point. I was always getting a little bit feel like I'm finished. It's like I'm finishing just to happen. So what I'm teaching, I'm not saying anything short. I'm not saying the exact amount that I should. I'm starting from slight ending a few minutes less, but the actual thing is, when I prepare all of this, so what time is it now? I'm getting mixed up on the time. If we're beginning at 7, I'm still working on it at 6:57. I'm still getting ready to do things. And then I have to sit to teaching. And I think I should just start teaching, but I'm still working on something. So I think doing more just is not working. I haven't even had time to shave my head. You might be thinking, oh, he's always showing blood. He said he's going to teach 2, and he's not teaching 2 hours at all. So why is that? You might think that. So please be patient with us. Please be understanding. If you are too insistent, then what I think is we have a long bit of time. If I work too hard and I get sick in the middle, then it wouldn't be good for the. When I was teaching I worked too hard. And I didn't have time to sleep more than 3 or 4 hours a day. And the last day, it's like my head was spinning. I was about to fall down. So I think it's probably better not to, not better. So I get up. So I go to bed early, get up early, and do some preparation. So please keep that in mind. So now we recite the closing prayers. Karma, Chizo Kendo Midre Shu.